Hello again, everyone. This video is about my Russian visa, and I was thrilled when I got this. I was over the moon. I was like, whoa, there's something surreal almost about seeing a Russian visa in an American passport. I mean, it strikes me as just a little, I don't want to say strange, but just maybe unusual. Me personally, that other people may feel differently about it, but it just strikes me as being, maybe it was because it was such a hassle to get. And it wasn't the fault of the Russian government. I made a couple mistakes, and the people, the service I used, I don't want to mention their name, but their initials are Visa HQ. And there was a lot of miscommunication, misunderstanding, and they were a little slow to respond. But I finally got it. And that was this. Originally, I was going to make this video about all the problems in the process, the mistakes I made, the problems that, so on and so forth. But then when I was making notes as to what to say, I hit on something that I thought was interesting, and it became the subject of this video. They wanted to know, in the application, they wanted to know my employment history. I haven't worked for anyone for 8 or 10 years. I don't need to. And I have an independent income and so on and so forth. So I just put N/A, non-applicable, and sent the application in, and they got back to me and they said, no, we need your full employment history back 10 years or whatever. I said, okay, my memory's imperfect, I forgot all my names, but they wanted to know names of supervisors, just like you're applying for a job. You know, what I did, how long I worked there, I don't think they wanted to know how much money I made, but so on and so forth. So I said, okay, fine, so I sent it in. And I was wondering, I said, why did they need to know my employment history? Now I can understand other governments wanting to know that, because they don't want you coming in and being a burden on their society. In other words, have you worked, and are you still employed, or whatever. But with Russia, I think it's a little different. And I may be going out on a limb here, but I think they wanted to know what kind of work you did, which defines you as a person. And here's the problem as I see it. Americans, and this is a uniquely American thing, Americans like to go to other countries and tell them how to run their show. It's called a regime change, among other names. But they like to go there, and even if they have to, they displace the government and put a government in place that's more to the Americans' liking. They do that at the point of a gun. America has been pretty unsuccessful in doing that. Didn't happen in North Korea. The Kims is still in charge. Didn't happen in Vietnam. Vietnam is still communist. You go right down the list. Afghanistan, the U.S. has been in there for 20 years. Nothing has changed, except more heroin is being produced, a lot more heroin. Iraq, well, Iraq is still Iraq. Syria, Assad is still in charge. But what the United States does is they use, in my opinion, my humble opinion, they use human rights organizations as their shock troops. It's like back in the day, the Catholic Church used the Jesuits to go in and disrupt and change governments. In this case, the United States government used these human rights groups. So, to my way of thinking, the Russians wanted to know, well, people coming in, have they ever worked for an NGO, a human rights outfit? I haven't. I've always worked with my hands. So I haven't been associated with any of those groups at all. So I'm fine, I'm okay. What struck me as funny, supremely funny, is that Senator Ron Johnson, I believe he's from Wisconsin or somewhere up there, he's a Republican, he was denied a visa by the Russian government. They said, sorry, you're not welcome. Stay the hell out. Why? Among other things, he said some very rude things about Vladimir Putin, President Putin. And when he over there, he intended to meet with activists, Russian activists, who are upset with Putin. Fine. I don't know the issues that Russian activists are involved in, but they got to be fairly abstract. Maybe it's just they're not getting a big enough slice of the pie. I don't know. I'm unfamiliar with it. I wouldn't know a Russian activist if I tripped over. But that being said, I got a visa and Senator Johnson did not. Why? Because I've been respectful and never said anything bad about Vladimir Putin or the Russian government or the Russian people. On the contrary, I've been trying to be supportive. And the truth be told, I kind of like Putin. But I might make another video on that. But here's what's kind of interesting, I think, is that once you have that visa, which is really, I think, really, really more important, a Russian visa carries with it more importance than people would give it credit for at first blush. It's kind of like a cachet or a carte blanche or whatever you want to call it. But this is on a database now. My passport's on a database, and it's on probably Interpol or somebody that people can tap into. And they saw I got a 3-year visa, a Russian visa. And so other countries that I visit, they go, well, the guy's been vetted by the Russian government. Now, again, I may be making too big of a thing out of this, but from my personal point of view, I think it is a huge deal. Because when I go to, say, someplace like Egypt, which the United States has been trying to change that government since forever. I remember when Morsi from the Muslim Brotherhood was in charge, the people rose up and kicked him out, and the United States, the State Department was like screaming to high heaven. John McCain, Senator McCain was down there, which is my senator from Arizona. He was down there just weeping alligator tears because Morsi, a duly elected, democratic elected leader, had been kicked out, and McCain was just weeping. He was just, this is so terrible, so tragic. Again, and the Muslim Brotherhood, these people aren't pussycats. They were talking about blowing up the pyramids, and they killed a whole bunch of Coptic Christians and one thing and another. The U.S. took their side, took the side of the Muslim Brotherhood. And so if I go to Egypt and somebody says, oh, hey, the Russians like the guy, he must be okay. Now, I'm not saying the Egyptians are going to check me, but other countries may, I don't know. But still, it's kind of comforting to have that Russian visa, because then I'm just not an ordinary American. You know what I'm saying? People can't make assumptions about me and say, well, I'm one of these human rights people. I'm not. I'm a libertarian conservative. I don't care what you do in your life as long as you don't bother me. Go ahead on. That's and like I say, I may be getting, too far afield on this, but it's just an interesting observation on my part. I attach a great deal of significance to having a Russian visa. In fact, I'm proud of it. I really am. I just think it's an accomplishment. It's an achievement. I don't want to praise it too much to the high heavens, but you understand what I'm saying. So anyway, yeah, I got my visa, 3 years, and Senator Ron Johnson did not. How cool is that? Okay? So that's all I'm going to have to say about that. And so, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.